Okay, let's get right into it. There is something huge happening right now in high-tech manufacturing, a real tectonic shift that's redrawing the global supply chain map. And the epicenter of it all is India.
Take a look at this number, $30 billion. That's what India's smartphone exports are on track to hit in 2025. Now, what's truly mind-blowing about this is that just a decade ago, that number was basically zero. This isn't just growth, it's an absolute explosion.
So, what's fueling this incredible fire? Well, the answer is right here. More than 3/4 of that $30 billion boom comes down to one single iconic product, the Apple iPhone. That's right, one company, one product is literally changing the entire manufacturing game in India.
So that begs the question, right? How on earth did this happen so incredibly fast? And maybe more importantly, what does this all really mean? Is India becoming the world's next great electronics powerhouse, or is there a bit more to the story? To really wrap our heads around the scale of what's happening, we need to look back a little. A lot of experts are actually comparing what Apple is doing for electronics today to what Maruti Suzuki did for India's auto industry decades ago. It's that big of a deal.
And it's such a brilliant analogy. See, when Maruti arrived, they didn't just build cars. No, they built the whole shebang. An entire ecosystem of suppliers, skilled labor, and logistics, basically from scratch. Well, that's exactly what Apple is doing right now for high-tech electronics. It's pulling in its partners and building up local talent.
And let me be clear, this is not some small-time experiment. 14%, 14% of all new iPhones on the planet are now assembled in India. That is just a massive number. It makes India the only other major production hub for Apple outside of China. It's a huge strategic move for one of the biggest companies in the world. So, how did we even get here? Well, this didn't just happen by accident. It was really the result of a perfect storm, a moment where government strategy and global events collided. The timeline shows you exactly how it all came together. So it all started pretty small back in 2017, but the real game changer was 2020. That's when the Indian government launched what's called the Production-Linked Incentive, or PLI scheme, which basically gave companies cash incentives to produce more. And at the exact same time, companies all over the world were desperately looking for a China Plus One strategy to make their supply chain safer. India was ready and waiting.
You know, this quote from Varun Gupta just nails it perfectly. He says the government's PLI scheme built the runway, but it was Apple's big move to diversify away from China that gave the takeoff, real velocity. What a perfect way to put it.
And the impact on the ground, for real people, it's been immense. We are talking about more than 250,000 direct jobs created just by Apple and its partners. And some estimates say you can triple that number for indirect jobs. This is creating a whole new blue-collar workforce and really boosting the economy. Okay, but this is where the story gets a little more complicated. We've seen the incredible numbers, but now we have to ask a really important question. Is India truly manufacturing these phones, or is it mostly just assembling them?
And the key idea to understand here is something called local value addition. It sounds technical, but it's actually pretty simple. All it means is what percentage of a phone's final price tag actually comes from things made or done inside India. This is how you really measure a country's manufacturing muscle.
And this chart, well, it lays out the challenge in black and white. Right now, India's local value addition is hovering around 15 to 20%. Now compare that to China, which is up at 40%. That gap you see, that's the journey India still has ahead of it.
So what that means in practice is that all the really expensive, super high-tech parts, we're talking the advanced computer chips, the beautiful display panels, the amazing camera systems, those are still being imported. India is doing that final, super important step of assembly, but the really high-value stuff is still coming from somewhere else. So, what's the plan to close that gap? Well, industry leaders in India have this fantastic way of thinking about their strategy. They don't see it as a 100-meter dash, they see it as a 400-meter relay race. As Vinod Sharma puts it, it's a multi-stage process. Each stage hands the baton to the next one, building up more and more speed and momentum along the way. It's a really smart way to look at it. So let's break down the race. The first leg, the one India's running right now, is assembly. The goal is to become the best in the world at this. Then they pass the baton for the second leg, components. That means actually making those high-value parts in India. The third leg is design and R&D. And that final, anchor leg, the one that wins the race, That's about creating India's very own global champion brands. It's a really clear and ambitious strategy, but just like in any real race, there are always hurdles on the track that you have to clear.
And one of the biggest hurdles, as this quote from a company founder points out, is money. Access to capital is a huge problem, especially for the smaller companies that form the backbone of the supply chain. If you want to expand a factory or buy more parts, that's tough to do without financing.
So, to sum it all up, India really has 4 key hurdles to overcome. First, localization, making more of the high-tech parts at home. Second, capital, making sure businesses can get the financing they need. Third, fragmentation, building up dense, efficient industrial zones like you see in Shenzhen. And finally, culture and capability, pushing for more R&D and digital innovation.
Look, it took China decades of nonstop, focused effort to build its manufacturing empire. India has gotten off to a phenomenal start. I mean, they've sprinted out of the blocks at an incredible pace. But the real question, the one everyone is watching now, is this: can it keep up that speed, clear all the hurdles, and ultimately cross that finish line?